Without further ado, I am proud to introduce you to our moderator for this afternoon, Ryan Patrick Hooper. He is the award-winning host and producer of Culture Shift on 101.9 WDET-FM, Detroit's NPR station. I'm handing it over.
Thank you so much, Ebony. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you to everyone that is here. And special thank you to the interpreters for making this accessible. Really do appreciate that. Got some luminaries already in the chat. Shout out to Marsha Music and Backpack in the room. Excited to see you. So yeah, let's kind of break down how this is going to work, what we're going to be doing today. So the cool thing about both of our artists is that they will be playing a video presentation about what they do creatively. These have been really amazing to watch. They give so much perspective on their craft. And then we'll have the opportunity to chat with them about that very craft after we watch the videos. And the whole point is to really showcase and advance the Kresge Artist Fellows and the Gilda awardees and their creative practices. They're coming from that most recent class of 2021. And yeah, it's really, really fantastic to be here and be part of this process. Real quickly, a little bit of housekeeping. If you are experiencing issues with your Zoom connection and the video isn't coming through for you, Andrea will drop a link in the chat where you can view the video on your own and at the same time that it's playing via Zoom. If any questions come to mind while we're watching the presentation, please feel free to drop them in the chat right away. I love hearing your perspective and your questions that you have for these artists, and we'll make sure to integrate those into the conversation. And yeah, I'm really, really excited about the two artists that we have today. We'll start off with our first presenting artist, Darcel Deneau, who is with me now. Darcel, welcome to the Kresge Artist Salon. You're muted. Let's get her unmuted. There we go. Darcel, take it away. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. I'm real excited to be here, and I'm looking forward to this program. I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm a Detroit artist. I started as a painter, and I painted a lot of Detroit urban landscapes. And over the years, I've transitioned my work into painting with glass. So it's a mosaic with tiny pieces, with a mix with some found objects, and I have a lot of fun doing it.
And we're getting a little bit of a view into your studio, right? You're in the Russell Industrial Center, and this is a view into your workspace.
Yes.
Love it. I think you always have to have a good, comfortable couch in any artist studio. Very, very important. Darcel, thank you so much for that introduction. We're going to talk with Darcel a little bit after this video presentation. So let's go ahead and watch this presentation right now.
Hi, I'm Darcel Deneau, and I'm one of the 2021 Kresge Fellows. I was asked to do this video, and I thought it would be interesting to take a tour of my studio and learn a little more about my practice. We're here in Detroit at the Russell Industrial Center, and this space here is one of the bridge spaces. So it connects two buildings, and we have windows on either side, letting incredible light all day long. I share my studio with another artist, Mel Rosas, is an incredible painter, taught at Wayne State for many years, and he retired last year. Within our studio, we have a workshop area where we have power tools. Over here, we have what we call our kitchen, and simple things that we need, either coffee or warming food. This is kind of a shared workspace where we spread out projects. We call that our living room, and sometimes we need to take a break because we're here at really long hours. We might eat lunch there or something. Now, this side of the room is primarily my workspace, and what I do is I do Detroit urban landscapes. I painted for years, and maybe about 10 years ago, I started experimenting with mosaics, and then I slowly transitioned my urban landscapes into mosaic instead of paint, and I haven't turned back. It's been about 5 years now that I exclusively do glass mosaic with the found objects, and so let me show you my space here. This is, I have tools here. I use them for multiple different things. One of the things that seems use a lot of things, do these tools for is manipulating steel or some kind of found object. I need use my bolt cutters or hammer things, use my vise. I could be just, I need to, I build the tables, the shelves, and sometimes, you know, reorganizing. It's really fun. I really like doing that. So all the tables, I built them on wheels so that I can move them around and adapt them to whatever I'm doing at that time. Over here is my primary workspace where I make my mosaics. Detroit is really a special place to me. I moved to Detroit about 5 years ago with my husband, and I've been really passionate about the rebirth of the city, and I feel like the mosaics are kind of a literal parallel to rebuilding the city and putting the pieces back together, all the pieces that are crumbled and shattered, and finding them and putting them back together. And some of the pieces might be found objects and things that I find on the ground here in the city. A lot of them aren't. I might buy them on Etsy or find them somewhere else, but I ride my bike and walk a lot, and I pick up things as I see them on the ground. So over here at my primary workspace is a mosaic that I'm working on currently. It's part of my round series, and I thought I'd just show you a couple of the tools I have. I used round or wheeled nippers, and I have a traditional glass cutter, so I can. With paint, I can make any color, but with glass, I gotta kind of go around and shop around the studio and kind of find a color that I think is close, or the next best thing. And then I can break it and I can make different shapes. Doing something like this is extremely time consuming, and sometimes I have to cut several pieces before I get just the right shape. And the other kind of cutter that I have is the regular glass cutter. But this one I can cut straight pieces or curvy pieces, and then I use my running pliers, and I can make a long skinny piece or whatever. I use a lot of long skinny pieces because they don't consume as much table space, and the kind of work that I do doesn't require large pieces. So I wanted to point out, I spent a lot of money on glass, but some of it, like this dichroic that has this finish on there, is really expensive. This little piece might cost $30 or $40, whereas the other stuff is expensive, but not quite like that. Those pieces, though, are so critical in achieving things where, you really get the lights lighting up, depending on how the light hits the piece or the angle that you're standing at, which I think is kind of interesting too, because the way you see my work will vary based on where your perspective is, and I feel like that parallels the city as well. People that maybe were raised in one area or one suburb versus another end of the city might see Detroit and have a different impression of the city. I'm always very enthusiastic, and it's my intention to present positive images of Detroit. So with glass, it is a constant battle of organizing, and it looks messy, but it always is. But I have to have organized chaos, where I have underneath almost every table is storage, and I'll have really large pieces or medium pieces. I just have to sort it and resort it. Over here is kind of medium pieces, and then just all over I can keep organizing. This here I have the shiny pieces, because I really love the shiny glass, and I like to be able to find it right away. Right here, I find a lot of things I mentioned, but I organize it in this space here so I can find it easily. And some of the stuff, like these buttons here, cash register buttons, I might find on Etsy, and I buy it at thrift shops. Detroit Urban Artifacts is a place here in the Russell Industrial Center that is my new favorite place to go. And I was able to find I find a lot of good things there. But I found those circular frames that were part of Crane Molds, a Crane Mold factory. That's where the guy got them from, and I'm really excited about those, and I just started my round series. So over here I have other things that I collect, like bottle caps or scrap metal pieces, watch batteries. I like the clear jars because I can see them and find them. I have old keys. I use keys a lot. I have bullet shells because I went to the range and I had to bite my tongue a little bit about my feeling about guns, but it was nice to be able to get the bullet shells. They look great when I can use them. Over here I want to show you some of my finished work. Right here is a piece that I am really pretty excited about. It's a recent piece, and as I kind of go along my path of doing mosaics and making these pieces, initially I just started putting some found objects in really subtle and discreet where they didn't stand out, and lately I've been getting more confident about just putting them in there, you know. And so this piece here was it was really actually a poor quality photo, but translated into a beautiful piece. I've been fascinated with the way the lights reflect on the ground, and when nightfall is just starting. So those kind of that kind of fascinates me at the moment. This piece here, the glass store is over an hour away, and I was wanting to make this, and I didn't have any dark brown glass, so I decided that looks like the color I need, all these metal pieces. So I, put them in there, and it was a great discovery. Up here is one of the first pieces of the round series, and I'm really happy with this piece. So anyway, I make more mosaics every day, and I enjoy it. It's very time consuming. I cut my fingers, but this is where I'm passionate about my art, and it makes me happy to be here. But I just hope you enjoyed this time, and I thank Kresge for this incredible opportunity and the honor of having won a Kresge Fellowship. So thank you.
Darcel, that was a great presentation. I know everyone really appreciated being able to see your studio space.
Okay.
Yeah, Marcia made the same point I was thinking. You called it organized chaos at your studio space, but Marcia pointed out it was so organized and orderly. And I think most artists would say you're more organized than they are. You have quite a system. Now, how important is that to make sure you've got everything in order, your mise en place, before you start working?
It's pretty important. I have to kind of keep things tidy enough too, so I don't hurt myself, because if you lean on the table, I was doing a little sweeping before we started here. But yeah, when I'm working on something, I need to be able to find what I need, and sometimes things are spread out and not in the right place, but I kind of know where they are. But yeah, usually at the end of each project, I put all the glass away, and then start pulling the more glass for the next project. I will take, the photo around the studio and look for, colors that look just like the ones I need. So yeah, organization is really important, but it's something I like to do. So.
Very cool. In that main piece that you showed us, I believe that's right, just south of Grand Boulevard on Woodward there, when you're going under that underpass. Yes, that's where it is. So I'm curious, I love the headlights you did. I don't know if anyone noticed that on the cars, but you use the glass in such a cool way to show the reflection of the headlights, the light of the headlights. That's a really amazing detail. And you talked about layering all these textures and details into these pieces. So how much time goes in to a piece like that for you?
Oh, a lot of time. I'm working on a piece right now that's 16 inches square, and I probably have 35 to 40 hours of sitting at my table, studio time. Just it is, it's physical, sometimes I just, it's a lot of time.
That's incredible. We've already got a lot of questions for you, so I want to integrate some of these questions that we're getting from the audience here today. Solomon, great to see Solomon again, who asks, what made you transition from paint to glass mosaic?
Well, my dear friend, she is a mosaic artist, and she has been for many years. And she convinced me to sign up for a mosaic workshop that was in Mexico. It was a fun vacation as well. But we worked in an open air area, and we learned, a lot of the basic techniques. And she kept, dragging me to more workshops, and I learned more, and I learned how to do portraits and different things. And I said, I need to get back to doing what I do. I'm a painter. And one of our mosaic friends said, well, why don't you try doing one of your mosaic landscapes in glass, or your painted landscapes, painted in glass. And when I did, I was really hooked. When I grouted that thing, I just had this feeling that I haven't had about anything art related. And so it was real exciting. And I just feel like glass is so much, it kind of has an inherent style. I don't have to try to make it a, impressionistic brush stroke. You can't control it so much, and it just brings a style all of its own. So I really love the glass.
Has it helped you stand out more as an artist, do you feel? I mean, painting landscapes in Detroit, very well established, right? There's plenty of people who do that, but do you think that transition of going into glass and mosaic has kind of given you your own lane?
Yeah, I do. I definitely, I'm connected to some wonderful mosaic artists in the area, but, so maybe I know them, but, there's not that many in relative to the whole area.
So we got more questions coming from the group here, which I love to see all these questions. Thank you to everyone that's participating. Steph wants to know if you work in other forms of arts as well. So are you kind of staying in this lane right now with the mosaics, or are you experimenting with other things too?
I try to stay in one lane, but I definitely like to do all kind of creative things. I like to do things outside and build a sidewalk, or something, with bricks and stuff. Sometimes I do little things like I just happen to have this here, like a little things like that. It's mosaic still, but one time I had a backhanded compliment when someone said, "You're just like my sister, a jack of all trades, but a master of none." So that really helps me stay focused when I remember that, to stay focused on my goals.
Well, sometimes, artists can have a period focused on one thing that could last 20 years. And then you just decide one morning, I'm good. I'm going to try something else.
Yeah.
You're just trying to follow that interest as it comes and goes of what you want to work on.
Yeah, I find that my work kind of is, if I look at earlier work when I first transitioned to the mosaic, I've refined my style a lot, and the pieces I seem to be making recently are just more and more tiny pieces, but I don't know, it just I like doing it. So it keeps getting tinier. So not too much of a transition. I stay, in the same lane, but it's more.
That is
refined.
the opposite usually of artists. I feel like artists always want more space to make bigger pieces, but you're going the opposite direction.
Yeah, I always say I want to make another big piece because I've made a few big pieces, but the bigger pieces, it's difficult because you can't stand it up on an easel. You have to have it flat or relatively flat, unless you have something anchoring the bottom. And then no matter how tall you are, you still have to try to reach over and try to turn and work on things sideways. So it's like a physical thing that you can't always. It's very difficult to do a big piece.
And Andrea wants to give you some comfort by pointing out that the full phrase is, a jack of all trades is a master of none, but oftentimes better than a master of one.
Oh, all right. Thank you.
Keep that in
that.
perspective for all the backhanded compliments that might come your way.
Yeah.
Marsha wanted to know where the ground glass, where that glass is coming from. I know you mentioned sometimes you have to travel quite a bit to get it.
There's a few glass stores around, but the main glass store that I go to is in Lansing. It's called, it's Delphi Glass, and it's a big warehouse, has a huge selection. People come from other states to go to this place. So the majority of my glass comes there. I also, at least in the last year or so, I've gotten a lot of donations, people who had a relative that did stained glass or something, and they donate the glass to me. It's really been wonderful because I get colors and, finishes that they're not available anymore. So widening my variety of colors is always a great thing. So it's been really great.
That leads perfectly into another question we received, which is how hard is it to find that perfect color for a piece? Is that one of the big things that you're always trying to work on or expand?
Yeah, sometimes it is really difficult to find the right color. And with glass, you just have to choose the next best thing. I say I like to shop around the studio, but I have everything kind of sorted where like the biggest pieces and the medium, and down. And then I even have like kind of shoebox sized bins where I have it sorted by color, where I save all the tiny little scraps. So that sometimes I have to dig through there and I find just the right color. Or sometimes one side of the glass has just the color I need. But you pretty much have to find the next best thing, which oftentimes is, a welcome addition to whatever. It always seems to work.
Let's go back to a little bit of your origin story. I'm curious, how you got involved in the arts at all, and that moment where you realized, okay, I think I might have an eye for this or a talent for this.
I definitely had a moment, a real firm moment, and it was when my dad died. I was 31 and I thought, wow, my dad must have been 23 years old when I was born, because he was 54 when he died. And I thought, wow, what if I only had 23 more years in this world? What have I done? And who am I? So I decided to go back to school full time. I was raising my kids. They were in middle school. And I was a stay-home mom. I always did creative things since I was a child, but I really focused on getting that degree. I went back full time. It was kind of embarrassing being the mom at the school. They even hollered mom as I went across the stage at graduation. But I take it seriously, and so it was worth it. I'm glad I did.
Yeah, that's definitely an inspiring story, especially when that idea of ageism or feeling like you're too late in life to like make a transition. It's always important to try to get that out of your head and realize, it's never too late to jump into something new. You talked about something in your video about perspective. If I'm looking at your piece from different directions, it's going to give me a little bit of a different hue, a little bit of a different perspective on it. And also putting the pieces back together, kind of representing the city of Detroit. Can you talk a little bit more about how the city influences your work?
Initially my whole reason for wanting to make Detroit images is just, I get, it's a sentimental place for me. It's somewhere I spent when I was a child, and all of a sudden all around me, suburbs of Detroit, in Detroit, outside of Detroit, people are saying such terrible things about the city. Everybody hates the city. And this was around 2000 when all this, when I started to just really get annoyed with hearing, someone one time said "de-toilet." So I just, I thought, no, this is something to cherish. And so when I started doing mosaics, and it's not like something I thought of initially, but as I was doing it, I really felt like I was, my things were unshattered. I was putting things back together. Here's a city that's broken down, and I'm getting pieces literally from the city, not all of them, and I'm putting them kind of back together into something beautiful. And so I do feel like it has kind of a rebuilding quality to it, but also the perspective. I think that where you're, if you grew up in the outskirts of Detroit or in a suburb, or maybe you're from another, everyone has their own impression. And so I think, with the way my work kind of shifts with the finishes on the glass, or it's interesting, if you go one way, it might look like some of the lights are actually lighting up. And then, another time of the day, the sun comes in and lights up this one I have in my kitchen, and it just looks entirely different. And so where you view the work from, it changes dramatically. And it's so funny how I feel like that's just how, like, people who grew up in downriver might think of Detroit one way, and then people who grew up, on the north end of town might think of it another way. And so perspective is very, important in my work.
How does that perspective how does that perspective come from, your patrons or people that purchase your art or see it? Do those ideas communicate with them, or what's the type of feedback that you get from viewers of your artwork?
The one thing that is people are excited about the perspective and the unshattered thing, but I think mostly what people are excited about is there's not many people who do this. And some of my greatest peers that and mentors that I've looked up to, have given me the validation on, you're going in the right direction, you're doing the right thing. And that means a lot to me. Of course, your friends and your family are going to say, oh, this is nice. But when your peers and people that don't usually dole out the compliments, because artists, some of them are very honest and truthful, and they'll tell you exactly what they think, which I appreciate, but sometimes it's a little cutting. But and people who want to purchase them are usually just, they fell in love with the image, or they're not, that's what I found.
Darcel Deneau, I really want to thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us and giving us that look into your studio. I really, really do appreciate it. Thank you so much, Darcel.
Well, thank you for having me. This is a great honor.
And, people were saying, I want to see some more of her pieces, and you can see them at her website, of course, easy to find, just type her name in, and also on the Kresge page, the Kresge Arts in Detroit page, there's some great selections and a little bit of a bio about Darcel and a link to her website too from there. And I'm sure it's already in the chat, but I'm sure we can get it dropped in the chat once more for anybody that wants to check out her work and perhaps buy a piece, right? Give all of our money to Detroit artists. That's the idea here. We have another artist that works in visual arts, and I'm excited to welcome them to the Kresge Artist Salon stage. Ijana Cortez, are you with us?
Yes, I'm with you. Hi, everybody.
A pleasure to have you. We're going to watch your video here in a second, but if you just want to go ahead and introduce yourself and tell me a little bit about the medium that you work in.
Okay, my name's Ijana Cortez, and I work in paint. So I paint all day and all night. I'm also a muralist. I moonlight as a muralist, so that's what I do.
All right, let's go ahead and learn more about Ijana right now with this great video, and then we will ask questions. So if you've got any questions while watching the video, make sure to get them in the chat. All right, let's go ahead and learn more about him.
My name is Ijana Cortez. I'm a 2021 Guild Award honoree and fine artist from Detroit, Michigan. My practice consists of murals as well as studio work. The mural practice is more consistent with outreach, community outreach, helping people in the community, whereas my studio practice is personal in a very different way. My practice is pretty straightforward. I try to stay neat. I try to always come in uniform and respect what I'm doing, and respect the position that I am in to do it, and always operate out of a place of gratitude.
Well, I wanted to just get to know a little bit more about like your origin story as an artist. How did you get started making work?
Yeah, I've pretty much been drawing and creating my entire life.
Okay.
And professionally, I've been painting for around 5 years now.
Okay. So we're sitting in your studio, which is this beautiful space, and I'm surrounded by paintings. So can you tell me what you're working on right now?
For my solo show.
Nice. Okay. So can you tell me something about the solo show?
My solo show is just pretty much a presentation of everything all the thoughts and ideas I've collected over the past 5 years of professionally practicing.
How do you identify in terms of as a painter?
I identify as a realist, technically,
Okay.
but and a figurative painter. However, I don't necessarily commit all the way to realism.
You're not trying to replicate reality exactly.
But I am trying to represent a current reality that I think Black people are living right now. I'm trying to replicate what it feels like to exist.
Well, the first thing that comes out for me is you do that through like manipulation of color. Can you speak to your color palette a little bit more?
Yeah, the colors are definitely reflective of the city and how I grew up, because the first artists I looked at were music video directors and people like Hype Williams and like Little X and people who made feeling like put visuals with music and manipulated visuals in that way. It's definitely a city palette, because I think these neon signs and like LED lights and things like that are definitely things you find around the city in the daytime or at the nighttime. Overlaid on concrete, of course, but it's a very modern thing.
When I'm looking at your work, I'm looking at, I think, masked folks. Is that something that is a thread throughout your whole career? Is that new?
It's definitely taken on like a heavier form in the latter years, where I've kind of committed to only painting males. The reason for that being these were just kind of guys that were my friends amongst the world that made Black men seem a little bit scary. So it was my way to take these wonderful guys I know and to place them in front of people, to make people almost introduce themselves to them and to be comfortable with them and for them to be undeniably beautiful. Because a lot of times when guys are walking on the street, they're immediately, especially in Detroit, you know, the Detroit as a whole, as a city, has such a stigma. They're immediately judgy about it. And that trickles down to my guys from the neighborhood. So a lot of these guys have dreams, they have families, they have things they want to do. So yeah, that just kind of inspired me to start painting the guys for now.
How do you go about coming up with, like, I guess, the composition of a painting or the pose that you're looking for? Is it something that happens organically? Do you sort of direct that?
It's the process of making the paintings and all of that. It definitely happens organically, and it's tailored to fit each subject that I'm painting. Whether I walk up to them on the street and in a natural environment of them just in the city, or I have them come into the studio and pose, which happens as well. It depends on the energy of the guy.
Okay.
It completely depends on that. I'll sit and talk with them for about 2 hours.
Okay.
We'll sit and talk, and I'll let them talk, and while they're talking, I'll take pictures, and then when they're done talking, I'll take pictures of them. But I'll let them just express their vibrato, whatever they feel, and I go base my paintings off those conversations and what I've gathered about them as a person, which is usually some very introspective things, because I think a lot of guys are usually in a state of where they have to suppress how they feel, and they're not expressing that. So when they get with me, they're in an environment where they can just talk. And so I let guys talk for hours of whatever they need to get off of their chest.
or they have, you know, dreams, definitely that's a big conversation that we have, is what you want to do. And that's important to me because as a kid growing up, I didn't see art as a career in any capacity.
That's interesting. I've also heard you speak about essentially like Black resiliency and your use of light in like sort of literally shining a light on like Black resiliency. Do you want to speak about that a little bit more?
I think in terms of culture in America and beyond America, which is worldwide, I think African Americans, Black people in America, Africans in America have driven it from the underground. It's always driven there. You know, creativity comes from a place of need. I think we've been put into a lot of positions where we needed something, where we needed an outlet, we needed to make music, or we needed to create just to, as a way of liberation for us, right? To free ourselves. But it came out of what seemed like nothing. It was in us like the whole time, but whatever environment we are, we'll take it and we'll make culture out of it. You know, I'm really thoughtful about not only the city, but just cities across America and different neighborhoods and different, you know, dialects, different ways of dance, different sounds, different ways of making music, and different ways of creating art, that we're all connected, but they all kind of have their little spice in their little neighborhoods. But it shows that I feel like wherever we are, we'll take whatever is around and make something of it.
And you represent that in your paintings by this sort of like luminescence that you sort of can this like luminescence that you experience while looking at the painting. Like an internal
Definitely.
light.
It's an internal light, and it's definitely a full-blown color. A lot of times I say I'll paint people of color in full color, because it was kind of my thought process, because I would study people like Kerry James Marshall, where he uses like an all black palette, where he wanted that black to be black.
Got it.
You know? And so I look for other ways to expound upon that language and to tackle it. So for me, it was in full color, and it was definitely in neon, because neon is actually a color that if you look at it is brighter than white. If you put it next to white, the white is going to look gray. And I wanted to show that vibrancy, that almost that it's almost like a ultraviolet type of, like when you're looking at neon as a synthetic color, and it's not in your normal palette of what they call like primary colors, right? However, they're not colors that you can just simply mix up and duplicate necessarily. It takes a lot of processing and a lot of technology. So all those things kind of come together. Why are you laughing at me? Am I ranting?
No, I've been.
That was a great video. Can everyone hear me?
Thank you.
That was a really, really fantastic video. I appreciate that very, very much. I think we have to start with your origin story. I really have to ask, you know, what was that moment for you when you, I don't know, realized that you might have an affinity for the arts? Take me into that moment.
I was 9 years old. So, and you know, like to give a rest in peace. My one and only art teacher just passed away a few days ago. And, you know, I've been really reflecting on that, but he was the only person that taught me. So 9 years old, we had a class, all the kids were, long story short, you know, drawing, and mine's, you know, was the only one that was a drawing. So I got whisked off with my teacher when we would have these classes, and I was able to study under him and work under him. So I learned how to draw really, really early. I didn't take it seriously till a little late. So like I said in the video, about 5 years ago. So because it was always something I knew how to do, but I didn't have, I wasn't challenged in it yet, because I didn't have the knowledge of the art world and the arts and how to interpret art. I had none of that theory. So once I found that theory, I kind of found myself falling in love with it. But yeah, I started here at 9 years old in Detroit, downtown Detroit. So that's where it came from technically.
Yeah, you mentioned growing up, you had never thought of the arts as a career. I mean, is that part of the reason why it took you a minute to really settle into it and take it more seriously, as you said?
Absolutely. I think the arts are definitely pushed through this view of a starving artist narrative. There's always, you know, if you're going to make art and you're not going to have any money, and I know that there's some people that are tight on money, but I think it's like any other career. You have people in different spots, and so I think that was never taught to me, or usually kids in the inner city like me. It was either you need to find a career that's very straightforward and very stable, and the arts was not. That was almost like a joke. Like, you're not going to make any money or any living doing art. There's nobody who does that. And then you know, you're able to come into the art world and you see, oh, there's plenty of people who do this full time. There's plenty of people who this is their life's work and they're just fine. So that's absolutely why it took me so long to come back to it, because I just didn't know.
So what was that moment 5 years ago where you said, okay, I'm ready to actually give this a shot? Because I think that's probably really mind-blowing for people to look at your work and say, wow, that's 5 years into your young career, and there is already so much style, there's already so much, you know, sense of identity in your work. So what was that moment where you said, okay, let's actually focus on this?
Let's focus on it. It was a little twofold. The first fold was I quit my job. So the day I did that, I was in that space of kind of freedom where I was like, okay, I'm not working corporately anymore. Now what? So I had this space to I was in the wind, as we say. I was kind of floating around. And then the second part was when the first time that I went to Art Basel Miami, and I was surrounded by art and artists from all over the world, and being able to see the influence of art all over the world and just take everybody in and take everything in, and to see what it was really about. And I was sold, because I said, oh, okay, this is what's going on here. So after I figured that out, I was sold. I was done.
And, you know, from my understanding, you have been taken in kind of under the wing of artists that are kind of a previous generation than you, artists like Sidney G. James, who seem like there's been a mentorship that's been important for your young career. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Did you guys break up? Hold on. Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Go ahead. I heard you when you said a young career. What did you say?
Yeah. We were, you know, the idea of mentorship for you with people like Sidney G. James and some other artists. I've definitely heard other artists bring up your name and are excited about you. So can you talk about the community itself and what it's done for you?
Well, you know, I would say this, outside of that encounter, because I'm technically self-taught, I kind of have this openness to learning things where I'm just trying to figure things out. So when I'll see other artists and they need help on something, or, you know, there's things that they need in their studio, I'm always up to help, because it's like it's a learning experience. It's free learning, but you get to work, but it's free learning. So I put myself in those positions. You know, I introduced myself to Sidney and made myself open to work. So after that happened, you know, doors just start opening up, you start building connections. But it's very important to just find like-minded people and to study them and to learn, because my goal is always trying to get to the next step. So I'm trying to see the people I know and love who are already there, what can I do to get next to them?
I think that's probably really valuable advice for any artist out there, is not to be shy about, you know, introducing yourself, getting out there, helping to work on a mural. You know, even
first it might be, I think at first it might be not, you know, necessarily the work you want to do. It may be something that you deem that's a little bit, I don't want to say beneath you, but you're like, oh, I'm over this. But no, sometimes you got to sweep floors. And so I think when, you know, people see you hardworking, like hard work always gets rewarded. They want to work with you and they want to, you know, give you a leg up because you're willing to just, you know, work to help yourself.
So let's focus a little bit more on the subjects and the colors that we do see in your paintings. Number one, you keep bringing up that very contemporary color palette. I keep, you know, when I look at it, maybe because it's still so fresh in my mind, I keep thinking of Euphoria, the show on HBO. Like there's so much of do you see that in your work compared to that show?
I can say I will see like a dreamlike sense about it for sure. And definitely like this modern take on what it means to like experience color and experience just life through your eyes. Cause I don't think it's so, the palette, especially if you live in the city, is no longer a mute palette. It's all kinds of synthetic things being thrown at you all the time, whether it's just the screen from your phone or it's brake lights from the car in front of you. You know, there's always this kind of light signaling in the synthetic environment. So the palette for me was definitely just trying to get away from what was considered like the natural palette in older paintings, which would be like things that you find in the environment, you know, like minerals and things of the earth. And I feel like, not that we're past that, but we're definitely, it's a different type of living. It's a different type of nature in the city. So I feel like these colors reflect that nature more.
Yeah, I loved what you said about, you know, neon on concrete. You know, also, I'm curious how hard it is to achieve the colors that you want when you are thinking about neon on concrete, or, you know, the light of a cell phone hitting the side of someone's face. You know, what goes into actually trying to capture that from a technical aspect for you?
For me, technically, well, with the neon, you really kind of have 4 colors, right? But those, which would be like you know, a neon pink, a neon yellow, and, you know, maybe a neon orange, maybe a blue, but for me, hotter colors work better. So I kind of use those colors as a base to kind of expand the rest of my palette to complement those colors. So if I'm starting on a pink, I'm looking for things that are balance those and counteracting out to maybe not make it look as loud, or to make it talk more. So that's really what I consider most when I'm picking colors, is what are new ways that I can bring colors next to each other to make them balanced. And so it doesn't look like I'm just throwing color all over the place. Even though it's loud, I really try to make it balanced, as balanced as possible.
That's the other interesting thing in your work, because you are primarily focused on Black males. The bright colors, even though you would normally think like, wow, all of this neon or bright color in the background would take away from the subject, it actually really gives them a bigger platform and puts them way more front and center in the piece.
Yeah, it's definitely it illuminates them. You know, it gives them like it gives the color like almost like a deeper perception, because the color has like more places to go, because with that addition of that palette. Because once you step outside that, it's like now we're working with light spectrums almost, instead of working with pigmented color.
That illumination is twofold in your work, because it sounds really personal, the way you're talking to your subjects and getting to know them. It sounded like some are friends, but some you're just seeing and introducing yourself to.
Yes. Yes. We become friends after I introduce myself.
Gotcha.
But so I would say everybody's a friend, but yeah, I kind of just form personal relationships with people and talk to them and you know, show them art. And so it's definitely exchange. It's like a symbiotic relationship. Yeah, I get art, but I get to, you know, hear what they're going through, hear about their life, you know, and we get to just share with each other.
You know, when they're sharing their lives and in particular their dreams, you said that was a big subject. Does that influence you? Do you see that consciously in the work that you end up creating of them, as who they were personally and how you portray them?
Absolutely, absolutely. It influences everything from the way I pose them to what I'm trying to capture, because usually I let them talk and I'll take pictures as they're talking. So I'll be like, you know, don't mind me, let's just talk, you know. And so from those pictures, I kind of go through those and then repose them. And I'm just trying to get, you know, pretty much the essence of that person. That's what I'm going for, and how they feel and how they're perceiving their world, from what I gathered.
You know, I want to get some of these questions in here. Solomon was reading my mind when they asked this question. How have your subjects received your finished work of them? Like what is the response that you get when they get to see this portrait, when, you know, some of these people you didn't know before and they have to kind of take a leap of faith with you. So what's the response?
Usually they cry, which is great for me because I like to feel them releasing that, you know, whatever it brought out of them, whatever type of happy feelings. Yeah, it's usually from screams to cries, it's somewhere in there. So it's pretty good.
Well, you touched on something in your video that you feel like there is a lot of emotion in your subjects. So, you know,
I think, you know, when you're Black in America, you're going through your day to day and you're just like going to work and coming home or whatever you're doing. Like they have a lot of thoughts and frustrations that maybe they're not getting to because they're just trying to survive. And I'm definitely on that spectrum of things. I've been in a lot of situations where I was just trying to survive. So you're on autopilot about how you feel, because it's not about how you feel, it's what you need to do. You know, whether that be for yourself or if you have kids, you know, for your kids or your family. So it's almost like coming up with the paintings and having them to sit as like a kind of a meditation, like a process of just pulling out how you feel and anything you just wanted to release, whether it be good, bad, or sad or happy, like just the rawness of, yeah, their perspective and who they are as a being on this earth.
I have to ask, you know, what do you think it's releasing for you as an artist?
For me, it's releasing the fact that it's giving my gift somewhere to go. It's giving what I can do purpose, because for me, the purpose is always service. So it's putting what I can do in a position to help people and to give people a platform, but give people a space to almost, because it's like when I'm kind of making these portraits, they're kind of creating this with me, you know, so it just gives them another avenue to express themselves. So I'm gaining as they're gaining, we're definitely exchanging. And so I'm just kind of always view myself as just like a medium or a vessel, you know, to help people and to help people to get their thoughts out and to see themselves, definitely to see themselves. Because a lot of guys, they haven't seen themselves in this type of environment. So just that visibility alone, me, is so impactful for them, and seeing them be impacted by that, it just frees me. It makes me want to keep moving in my path drawing.
Well, that is a very selfless, altruistic thing. I mean, you don't hear a lot of people deciding to do that or be in service. As you said, I'm really curious, where do you think that comes from in your personality?
Church. I grew up in church, and definitely my mother. You know, my mother is, if anybody knows her, is always helping people. That's her thing, is community service, community outreach, helping the community directly, whether it's, you know, lights, gas, food, whatever. She does that. So I kind of take that from her because she's been doing it my whole life. And we go to church, help people, come home. So that's where I get it from.
That's really, really cool. Another question from Solomon, and I think this is a great idea if you not have already thought of this. Solomon asks, is there an opportunity to read your subject's views of life in a book with your visuals? I would love to see them in the bookstore.
We can make it happen. Thank you, Solomon. I have to get on the team. Let's make it happen. I'm definitely open to that for sure. I think it would be beautiful.
Yeah, because that, you know, there's so much. You're talking about how powerful it is to kind of play therapist and with your subjects, and then try to capture that in a painting, and how much it actually informs the final product. I'm sure people would love. It makes me think of Rashawn Rucker doing pen portraits of transient people in his community and having their stories next to it. It made it so much more powerful. So
absolutely. That's definitely a consideration. I might consider it quick. I have a solo show coming up, so it might happen. Thank you.
Where is your solo show? Talk to me a little bit about that.
My solo show is at Collective Detroit, where I'm sitting in now, and that's also where my studio is, which is behind me. And it's gonna tentatively be on May the 6th. Tentatively.
Do you have a title yet?
I do, but I'm waiting until I'm moved to just release until I'm ready for it.
So some of that work we see behind you is going to end up in that show that you're working on right now?
Yeah, absolutely, for sure. It's working behind me and in front of me and on the side of me. I feel like I'm getting like encapsulated by my paintings right now, but it's all good.
Very, very cool. Well, I know that we are definitely going to be looking forward to that show. Ijana Cortez, thank you so much for taking the time to chat with us.
Thank you guys. Thanks for having me.
Really, really insightful conversation with our two guests today. Absolutely incredible. It's, you know, I think maybe we've done 4 or 5. I don't know. I've lost count, but I always end up feeling really incredible after this. So I hope everyone does too. Before I let you both go, I do have to ask you questions about Kresge itself and what that has meant for you. So Darcel, let's get you back into the conversation here. You know, as an artist, take me into what it meant for you to win or receive a Kresge Fellowship.
Well, I was standing in line at Macy's when I got that initial email, and my heart dropped, and I drove home and I cried all the way at the possibility. It's a big bucket list item for me, and it's a big honor because so, you know, it's just to get that validation. When you're a fine artist, you work by yourself every day, and you have friends in the community, but sometimes you just, it was wonderful, and it was great honor.
Has there been anything in particular, Darcel, that it's allowed you to do, maybe something you weren't able to do before, and now you've got more financial support to accomplish it?
Maybe I'll break even this year.
Okay.
I don't know. No, it's, you know, you pay for a studio, you pay all your supplies. So mine just kind of got absorbed with all the expenses that this takes.
But that's an important thing that, you know, I always think of Kresge and the fellowship, and a lot of times people don't think of the reality, the logistics that go into just maintaining an art practice. So for you, that maintenance was a huge part of using that.
Yeah.
An important part to make. Ijana, let's talk about you. Let's talk about the Gilda Award, which tends to be towards emerging, sometimes younger artists, kind of like, okay, we see what you're doing. You are on your way. So what did it mean for you to receive that designation?
It made me feel like I was on track, and because, you know, I'm like a big sports fan, so I'm kind of like, I don't want to say competitive in a way that I'm competitive against everybody else, but like I like to win. So I'm like, okay, like I'm gonna be honest. I don't think people are honest about that. They'll be like, oh no, I wanted to win. So I was like, man, let's see what happens. So when I got it, I was ecstatic. I felt like, okay, this is a confirmation that I'm doing what I need to do. And, you know, I text backpack, you know, so that's the first thing I did. I'm like, backpack, hey, you know, what's going on? So it was definitely great. It just made me feel like I was on track. Like it was confirmation.
Was there anything, you know, it comes with $5,000 purse with it. Was there anything when it came to your practice that it allowed you to do or think about that you weren't able to think about before you had that cash?
Yeah, it let me pay my rent so I could come back to the studio. So if that's a thing, you know, I needed some new glasses. They was kind of beat, so I did that, and then I was able to get back into the studio, and that's really what it did. It freed up some time. I feel like when people say time is money, yeah, because I don't have to spend this time looking for this money, so it freed up time for me to do other stuff. Great.
Ijana Cortez, Darcel Deneau, thank you again for being part of the Kresge Artist Salon series. Always good fuel for the heart and the soul and the mind to be able to be part of these conversations. And I hope everyone else who joined us today felt that too. Thank you to everyone that spent some time, kind of an early happy hour with us, getting to know these artists. Hopefully you feel a little more connected with them, and you can actually stay connected with them. See that solo show that's coming up soon. All that information to keep in touch with these artists is currently in the chat. And it's a great way to stay connected and support these artists down the road. If you would like to rewatch or share this program, it's going to be posted on Kresge Arts in Detroit Presents.art. That's Kresge Arts in Detroit Presents.art within the next few days. Please feel free to share that so more people can come and check these out. We're going to be doing another one on Friday, March 25th at the same time, 3 o'clock. I hope you can make it. You can learn more and register for the salon using the link in the chat. And on behalf of Kresge Arts in Detroit and WDET, I want to thank you so much for joining us. Again, to the artists that joined us as well. Really fantastic. And we will see you next time, Friday, March 25th at 3 o'clock. So I hope you're there. Thank you so much. Have a great weekend. Give all your money to Detroit artists. And yeah, take care.
Thank y'all.